Hello, this is What's All About, and in this review we're looking at the latest offering by MHD Watches. That's Matthew Humphreys' design. Matthew Humphreys was the chief designer at Morgan Motor Company. So he has since gone out on his own, become a car design consultant, and in turn he has released his own watch brand. So this is the Chronograph, so that's the CR1, but it's the Panda Chronograph. So as you can see, we have the distinctive Panda dial with the white dial and the two sub-dials being quite a striking black against that. So this watch, as is all of his watches, is very 60s inspired. Obviously, as he is an automotive designer, it's automotive themed, and that does show throughout the watch, in particular like these knurled pushers and the crown, and the racing themed strap as well. So let's discuss the watch then. The price is £250, but that's excluding VAT. So if you are buying it from the UK, expect to have VAT slapped on top of that. Diameters, just put it on my 7¼ inch wrist. So we're talking about a pretty standard diameter nowadays of 42mm. 42mm in diameter. A fairly decent height of 11mm, and a lug-to-lug length of 50.5mm. So slightly longer than average lug-to-lug length, mainly because of the very distinctive cushion 60s kind of shape to it. Very simple, but I find it to be very effective. It's, as you can see, just basically a nice big slab of steel, which is very well finished and machined. Weight-wise, it weighs in at 85 grams, so it's quite a lightweight, not too heavy, but enough to give you a decent amount of wrist presence, enough for you to feel it. But it's still pretty comfortable on the wrist though, so that's good. We have a water resistance of 10 atmospheres, so 100 meters, so nothing too out of the ordinary. If you do, have an accident with it or have a very light swim, it will be able to handle it, but I wouldn't recommend doing anything extra. The lug width is 20mm, and then the strap tapers down to 18mm at the buckle. It comes with a 1-year warranty, so that's as expected. And the movement is a Miyota 6S21. Now, I don't think I've come across that movement before, but it acts in a very similar way to any other mecha quartz. As you can see, we have a running second hand 3, and then we have our chronograph second hand, which is a big second hand 60-minute counter. And when we start it running, we have the mecha quartz coming into play there. So we have like a 5 ticks per second on the chronograph, and then we just can restart it like so. There we go. So that's all the specs really. Let's discuss it in further detail just to discuss the build quality of it. So let's start off with the dial. Very simple but very striking. I've had literally every time I've worn this watch, I'm guaranteed to get a comment. It's that striking. People notice it on your wrist and they go, "Wow, that looks great," which obviously is a good thing. You want people to notice your watch. So it is very, very simple. So good design is less design, many people say. So in this instance, Matthew Humphreys has done a very good job with this. We have like the automotive theme running through, particularly with the font chosen. It's very much like a Porsche design kind of font, with the CR1 and then the numerals. If we can get a little bit closer, you'll notice the CR1 here and then the numerals in the sub-dials there. A very Porsche design kind of theme. And sort of follows through to the case back as well. So we have this outer ridge with the grey, and then an inner like almost like a speedometer. So again, that's a little bit of automotive theme coming through. The sub-dials are on a slightly lower level, as you can see. It introduces a tiny bit of depth to the watch. The hands are slightly skeletonized. You can see that on the minute hand. So if I just move that back up, you'll see there. Now I've noticed that sometimes it can hinder legibility. So if, for instance, if it's like that, you can't really see exactly what it's pointing to. You know, is it 16? Is it 17 minutes past? So the reason why it is skeletonized is because it aids being able to see the subdials, but in turn it also hinders being able to see the important things, really, the minute and hour hand. So, you know, 1 plus and 1 minus, so neither here or there, really. The hands themselves are sort of like have a plasticky kind of finish to them. I believe they're probably just painted, but you can see there we have a very slight shimmer to them. But nonetheless, they're well constructed and a nice unusual design as well. All the printing is really, really top notch on the dial as well. Moving on to the case then, as I mentioned before, very, very simple, and you know, it's basically just a good old slab of steel, which is shaped very nicely and very well finished as well. We have some vertical brushing. It's all brushed, so we have some vertical brushing on the sides and then some horizontal brushing on the top. This very slight lip, I suppose you could call it a bezel, but it's not necessarily a bezel. It's just a lip that leads into the crystal. The knurled pushers are a really nice little touch as well. Very well machined and constructed. Obviously, sometimes you do tend to expect a signed crown, but in this instance, I think keeping it simple is the key idea here. So we have no signs whatsoever, and they just provide really good feedback when you push them. And then the crown is screw-in, so we have a good grip on that to be able to unscrew it and to set the watch. So that's all very, very well done. Moving on to the case back, again, simplicity runs through here as well. Just a circular brushed finish to it with some various details surrounding the outside. Very lightly laser etched, so it would have been nice to see them a little bit deeper engraved, perhaps. It would have increased, you know, the quality of the finishing a little bit more. Sitting on top of the case is a mineral crystal. That is a shame, but Matthew Humphreys did say that he's purposely chose it because of mineral crystal's superior shatter resistance. Obviously, a sapphire crystal is much more scratch resistant, but it does tend to shatter if you hit it, whereas mineral crystal is the opposite. He did say that in the future he is looking into using sapphire crystal instead. I personally think it's a good idea because, you know, luxury watches and just that the higher end watches, they all come with sapphire crystal. So if you want to be counted amongst them, then ideally you really do need to use a sapphire crystal. So just be careful with this crystal because you will be able to scratch it. But saying that, it is extremely clear. It's got great legibility. For the most part, it gives you like a really clear, striking appearance, visibility of the dial. So that's good. You'll notice also we have a very slight little lip as well around the outside, so that's a nice little design touch as well, as you can see there. You can see it distorting the dial ever so slightly. Moving on to the strap. So the strap is pretty standard, really, just a racing theme strap with those classic racing holes. It's not signed or anything, so it's probably just an aftermarket strap that's just been bought in bulk to be used on his watches. But saying that, it's perfectly acceptable quality. It probably would be nicer to be a little bit softer and more supple, but there we go. Because it's apparently an aftermarket strap, the buckle is completely unsigned as well, but it is brushed to match the case, so nothing too exciting to mention there. Okay, so let's get the macro lens on then, and we'll have a look at it in much closer detail. So starting with the dial. So we see the printing here, the logo, very simple, CR1 there. Moving on to the subdials. See the printing on that is nice and accurate. Moving on to this other subdial. Okay. Then we have this outer track around the outside, and our 5-minute increments as well. So, very simple, but does the job well. Looking at the hands, you can see here we have like this shiny kind of finish to them, and we can see the skeletonized appearance of them as well. Moving on to the case then, we just have a look at this finishing on the side. Decent vertical brushing, have nice sharp corners as well, as you can see here. Decent machining of the case. This lip as well, which goes all the way around and leads into the corner of the mineral crystal. So that's a nice jewel lip, if you will. Moving on to this side, we have the pushers. So decent knurled grip there, and a brushed end as well. So these are all exactly the same. But they look great, and they're really easy to use as well, so that's a nice little plus. Moving on to the case back, so we have this very light laser etching of the details around the outside. Would have been nicer, as I mentioned before, for that to be a little bit better, properly engraved rather than laser etched. But there we go. And now moving on to the strap. So yeah, pretty standard leather strap. Nice big holes in them. Comfortable to wear though. And on the underside we have some nice soft underside. And moving on to the buckle, just a plain tang buckle that's brushed to match the case. Okay. So, there's no denying that it is a very striking and lovely watch to look at. I mean, every time I wear it, I'm pretty much guaranteed to get a comment by someone just saying how nice it looks. So, it's definitely a watch that gets attention, a watch that's very well designed as well, well constructed. The literal only thing that not necessarily bothers me, but the one thing that is a shame is that it has a mineral crystal rather than sapphire. Obviously moving forward, hopefully that will be changed to a sapphire crystal, and hopefully the price won't go up because of that. And I think the price at £250 excluding VAT, although it is on the higher end of what I would expect, it is a suitable price for this quality of watch, because the construction of it is very good and the finishing is top notch as well. So there we go. And also it is a decent British designer. You're helping out a British brand, so many pluses there. So this was the MHD CR1 Panda Chronograph, and that's what it's all about.